Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights. This episode is entitled Peanuts, and hopefully I can unpack that to your satisfaction while providing some sports card insights. There'll probably be some non-sport insights there too, but I'm trying to bring it back to sports card insights. That's my lane. Thanks sponsors, Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Huggins & Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, ComC.com, and Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentications. I got an email on my pod page website from Trevor Cram reaching out. He said he was listening to Mike Moynihan on his Baseball Collector YouTube channel and hearing Mike say that I have seen it all. And I just want to say for the record, that is not true. No one has seen it all, but I've seen a lot. And I'm more of a generalist because I covered all the sports, but a generalist with really paying attention to details and always had a really good memory. My memory is not as good now, probably more from the lack of day-to-day familiarity as opposed to getting older. I think when I was doing the almanacs and the price guides and things like that, and had a rhythm of doing those on a monthly and annual basis, these price guides, keep it up and getting constant reminders. I don't have that anymore, but I still, deep in my memory, can remember. Anyway, Trevor's saying that he picked up an oddball card at a donation auction. He said some people wouldn't consider it even a baseball card, although it has a baseball theme. He says, very remarkable. I can't really find anybody that owned one or knows very much about it. Can you tell me about my card? And can you help? I thought, gee, Trevor, could you show me a picture? Can you give me a clue? But it's not a baseball card in the fullest sense of what a baseball card is. It's a Peanuts card. Tough Stuff, Ernie White did a set of Peanuts preview cards that were licensed by Charles M. Schultz. And he actually got Schultz, before he died, this is in 1991, to autograph one of each card. Didn't say one of one, but a one of each card. This is back in 91. Schultz passed away in the year 2000. He was already 70-ish when this happens. Ernie put together a deal. I knew Ernie. Ernie is probably an icon in many respects of the industry, was a visionary, very entrepreneurial, a friend. We were competitors too, but really admired his ingenuity and his desire to get out there and do different things. And he was a doer. So I didn't just talk about it. He did like this Peanuts set. I think he conceived it and made it happen. And now Ernie's passed away, but Trevor's trying to get to the bottom of what happened. Ernie had a card shop. He obviously had Tough Stuff. He is the publisher of Tough Stuff, and he was a true publisher. I think I was a little bit more of an author and certainly a price guide editor. And later on, I was the publisher, which is the person that makes the final decisions and the financial aspects of it. So Ernie promoted shows, produced minor league sets. He had a card shop. Ernie was a hobby renaissance man. He did all that stuff. In fact, his publication, great admiration. He started it, I think, by bootstrapping his mailing list that he was sending out to his customers in the Virginia area. And then finally, he wrapped a little bit of editorial commentary on it and then let it grow. But initially, it was really all his ads from his card shop and his mail order business. Anyway, he did this, and it turns out the other reason I am addressing this is that somehow Trevor got referred to or found out about Tucker Freeman Smith, who was Ernie White's right-hand guy in the late 80s, early 90s, and somebody that we knew, again, a friend, but also a competitor. He was the key editor at Tough Stuff. I think Ernie was successful in so many ways, and he eventually sold to Krause and then retired, and now he's passed away. But just like me, Ernie had some great alums of guys that worked for him, including Tucker Freeman Smith, who interacted more with our guys than he did with me, but he was good buddies with Pepper, and they kept up. But Tucker left the industries after a while, and then I caught up with him. We happened to be visiting eBay, maybe it was in the early 2000s, and there's Tucker Freeman Smith, one of the VPs or directors at eBay in the collectibles area. And I thought, that's cool. I'm glad that eBay has people like Tucker who are aware of the industry. Anyway, Trevor contacts Tucker and says, is my card legit? I have picked up this card. I picked up out of these preview sets. Ernie got Charles Schultz to autograph each one of the cards one time. So 33 one-of-a-kind cards randomly inserted in these kind of factory sets. They were all factory sets, 180,000 sets, 3,000 cases. So if there's only 33, that's barely more than 1 per 100 cases. So talk about a case hit. On the other hand, I don't think it was promoted that well. You're opening these up. Maybe some of them didn't even get opened. Again, it's just too rare to promote. That's the other problem that our baseball card and other sports card hobby had later on in the 90s, is that if you make something too scarce, actually people give up. At any rate, Ernie apparently oversaw Charles Schultz signing of each one, which I've done. I've witnessed some signings, and it's boring when they do hundreds or thousands, but to have an iconic artist like Charles Schultz signing 33 cards doesn't sign so long. He did it in blue Sharpie, which I think is less desirable by virtue of fading and virtue of photocopying and clarity compared to black Sharpie. Either way, I think it's probably better than a ballpoint pen. If you went through a box, you would see, hey, if you were looking for it, you would say, that's not scribbled on it. Hey, that's Charles Schultz's autograph. Trevor's point is he'd never seen one except for the one that he found. Then he tried to find out more about it and then led him to ask me. The problem, Trevor, and it's the problem of a lot of things like this, is that this is a counterfeitable card. Now, between 91 and 2000, it's possible that you could have had Charles Schultz personally autograph another one, that somebody could present it with him. I don't know that he would or wouldn't do that. There'd be no, perhaps, law against that. Or to fake his signature. I haven't talked that much to my autograph authenticating friends, but I think an autograph authentication is slightly different with a Sharpie compared to a ballpoint pen in terms of the pressure and the smudging and all that stuff, and if it's an autograph grade. So it could have been later signed, but none have been seen. Trevor had Tucker Freeman Smith sign an affidavit, which he did and notarized. Again, I knew Tucker, so I would not be doubting his personal recollection of what Ernie did and what Tucker was involved with as well. So Trevor is concerned and questioning, and this happens in the sports world too, is why when he sent it to PSA, they would only authenticate the autograph. They could not authenticate the card. And he's wondering why. I think BGS would be the same way. If it's not in the database, if it's not a card that has nomenclature, is a way to say it, if it's not in that database, then it's just like having a piece of blank cardboard or an 8x10. It's just an autograph on some other medium. Again, the card looks authentic to what it was, which is the Peanuts preview from 91, which, again, Tucker Freeman Smith is affirming that. And it looks good to me. So if my BGS friends came up to me, or BAS, the authentication guy, said, hey, what about this? So it looks good to me, but you really can't know. Okay, now the complication that comes up is that Trevor also showed me an example of a similar card, a different card in the set that was autographed and crimped. And he said, well, what about this crimping? Number one, it seems like it's crimped right on top of the autograph. Ernie wouldn't have done that. Tucker wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. Crimping was a thing back in 91. If you look at the Pro Line autograph cards in 91, but they were crimped in the lower right corner. And it was a distinctive crimping. But Ernie didn't do that. It would have had to have been a non-replicable crimping. And yet, I suppose you could reconstruct that as well. Trevor says this is the first one of ones ever to be marketed in a product. That may or may not be true, but it really wasn't marketed. He mentions the 97 Flair Showcase masterpieces. But again, even those were too tough. It's not like people bought all the product to open it up to find those. They just didn't go for enough. But the other thing that Trevor mentioned, this is also applicable to sports card sets, is the Snoopy licensing people would not allow Ernie to put out the set in packs of random cards, which would have been maybe even a more interesting chase, to open up packs to try to find the needle in a haystack or the 33 needles in the 180,000 haystacks. But in fact, Trevor, it's actually cheaper and easier to do complete sets. The randomized packs are actually more expensive. You got to do wrappers. There's a retail aspect. This was just put out a case at a time of these already complete sets. And occasionally one of them would have an autograph card in there. I didn't even know who would have randomly inserted, would have been Ernie or somebody else. But 180,000 sets and 33 cards go in there, 3,000 cases and 33 cards go into one of the boxes in one of the 3,000 cases. So extremely difficult. Obviously, that predates having autographed cards in there that have some kind of distinguishing manufacturer's mark. That came not way later, because I think Pro Line was doing that. Later on in the 90s, Pacific would crimp cards, not necessarily autograph cards, but when they would do some of the large card show versions where they would attend there and people would open up, they would pass out some crimped cards, but it was a distinctive crimping. And the ones I got, they weren't over the face, they were over on the side, but it was a distinctive crimping that was noted from Pacific. And I think some of the other card companies did that. Another thing, Trevor seems to think there was an $1,800 sale of the crimped card on eBay. And I'm just trying to figure out $1,800 is probably, if you figure out a Charles Schultz autograph now, is maybe $1,000, just guessing. But on this particular card, because of the rarity and the story, Trevor, I think it'd go for a lot more than that. So it went for $1,800 on eBay. How would this pass the eBay authentication program with the crimping, with an autograph? Now, maybe it's before eBay did their authentication program and you had to send it to them. They need to prove that the item is as advertised, as described. Number one, is the autograph real? And the autograph very well could be real. I don't think the Charles Schultz autograph is plentiful, but he wasn't a non-signer either. This is exactly what the eBay authentication program was set up for. And Trevor, I think by sending it to PSA, which you did, or to BAS or Jimmy Spence, any of these, the primary value is in the autograph, but there's additional value, as you're saying, in the narrative that this is one of the, if not the very first autographed one-of-ones, way ahead of its time. I think Ernie was part of that. Moral of the story for sports card collectors is it's good to have a quest, but it's good to have a quest that is achievable. There's Don Quixote out there. There's tilting at windmills, and not that you're going to go insane, but Trevor, these are very tough. And even if you were to put a bounty, I don't know that they would pop up. It's a long time ago. Frankly, it's not an expensive set. I remember when these peanuts came out, and to be honest, I do not remember any hubbub about the autograph cards. I think somewhere in there you've got Reggie Jackson autographing in pack for Upper Deck, but it was very nascent. And like I said, Ernie White was ahead of his time, and he had some good people working for him. Here's some more advice. Number one, I think you have something that's great, Trevor, but everybody, I just think it's better to have multiple quests than if you have one quest and you go to every show looking for the one. It's like me looking in a dollar box for one player. When you go to a card show, you can ask around, but I think it's a lot more fun to have a more diverse and broader search than just that card. And it may be other kinds of things like that. But even in the age of the internet, when you can search digitally, these things are, I just don't know. If you were to buy a case of the Snoopies, you'd have a 1 in 100 chance, presumably, that they haven't been searched, which I think would be really difficult because they are sealed in plastic and hopefully not resealed, that it wouldn't be worth it. It's the same thing as the Metal Universe cards and the green PMGs. The green PMG of your player might be 1 per 100 cases. So it's not good to search that way. It's better to let somebody else open it up, and then after it gets opened up, then be ready to pounce. But Trevor, now we are blowing the whistle on what is a really cool collectible. And Trevor does have the baseball card of the set. Schultz did drawings for each of his characters and in context of some of the great sets. There's a tennis one, there's a golf one, a football, all that. But this is the baseball one. So Trevor, I think you got the best one. I think it's really cool. And the fact that you can't get it completely articulated by a grading company other than to say that the autograph is found to be authentic, it doesn't take away from the fact that you've got a great card that has a great story. So thank you for sharing your research with me. And everybody else, if you've got interesting stories, again, this was just a great walk down memory lane with some people that I knew and respected, and a hobby chase that has come to fruition for Trevor, at least 1 out of the 33. Thanks, everybody. Be back again in 2 days.
The man in the house of cards.